It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
Coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George in New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today we got a busy show scheduled for you today, and but first, today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant, located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's to get an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by Fight TV. You can catch our show on demand on Fight TV. Check it out. That's FITE. .tv, Fight TV, and don't forget about downloading our free app. You can click the link on BillyCBoxing.com. And one last thing, Fight TV is your place to watch all the fights you can't see on U.S. television. So we have it all set for you. Whether they're free, whether they're pay-per-views, whether they're specials, whatever, we have a embedded video player right on the front page of BillyCBoxing.com, so you can watch everything Fight TV has to offer right there. So, it's a one-stop shop, man. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of it right now where you're watching or listening to this show. Just go to BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Looking to get a signed copy? Visit our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. You can't miss it. It's right there on the front page. But anyway, coming up a little later, we got Boxing Hall of Famer Larry Hazard scheduled to join us. We'll be getting his thoughts on the fights from this past weekend. And also, our blast from the past this week, Alex Papali will be by to tell us all about, as per request, because we try to keep you guys happy, Edwin Valerio. We'll be talking about him. So don't go anywhere. But let's kick off the show. Some more updates on Anthony Joshua. My man, AJ. Been seeing a lot of stuff about him in the press. How he's the face of boxing. How he's changed the sport of boxing. And, everybody loves him. And thanks to my man Johnston, who, by the way, you can catch his column up on BillyCBoxing.com. He has been forwarding me Anthony Joshua's daily diary that's been being posted on the local newspaper over in England. And I got part 2 of it right now. But first, joining me from St. Simon's Island is my man Sal Rocky Senacola. Good morning, Sal.
Good morning, Billy. How are you today, buddy?
Not too bad. Got some more stuff on Anthony Joshua. You ready to hear from this class act or what?
I am ready to hear from this class act, and he surely is just that.
There's no question about that. So check this out. We got the second part of Anthony Joshua's pre-fight diary, thanks to my man Johnston Brown. It is being published in England in the newspaper, so let me read it right now. And keep in mind, this is from Anthony Joshua. This is Anthony Joshua writing the diary. He says, Wembley Stadium and Vladimir Klitschko are central to how I'm feeling this week. it's a night that's still crucial to me in many ways. He's referring to his fight with Vladimir Klitschko that is still etched in his mind, which I find interesting. He says, I would have loved to have had the rematch around about now, but I respect his decision to retire. He's had an incredible career. That was the first time I'd been into the championship rounds in my professional career. I always wondered what it was like to go into those later rounds, what it was like to get knocked down, and now I've experienced both, and I can relate it to my opponents like Carlos Takam, for example, when I watch their fights and I try to use it to my advantage. There was nothing nasty in the build-up with us, and it didn't need to be. The stage was set at Wembley for a massive occasion, and we delivered. The night was perfect for me, the stadium, the moment, and even the weather. There was traffic on the North Circular on the way there, and people were beeping their horns and waving at me. Some people go through their careers without having to show grit. Others don't. I had to go through it against Vladimir and show myself, not anyone else, that I could dig deep and pull through from a bad place. You can't prepare for hitting the canvas. You don't train or practice getting knocked down. There's nowhere to hide, and you can talk and talk and talk, but it's who you are that gives you the character to get through that. On that night, it was the time for me to prove how much heart I had. Vladimir and I were matched well on ability, technique, and speed. It all just came down to desire. We needed to show who wanted it more. Even though he lost, he showed that he had a lot of fight left in him. I had to get rid of all of that respect I had for him and turn it into a dogfight. I put it on him in the fifth, and when I put him down, I roared to the crowd because I thought I'd done it. I turned around, and like the Terminator, Vladimir rose to give it his last push. I swung a few big shots and slipped him and started fighting back when we went into the sixth, and he put me down. I told him that if he let me get out of that round, I'd knock him out. I got back to the corner, and I felt my energy come back, and I told him that I warned him that this was going to come. It took me a few rounds to figure out the combinations he was throwing as he threw to his right hand. I was trying to go under the body to slow him down and let the left, with my left, and just naturally rotate. And what comes after that? The uppercut. After I landed it, I took a look at him to see if he was hurt because I didn't want to expend any excess energy if he had ridden the punch well. But I thought, let's roll the dice here, and I unloaded on him. Even when he went down and got up, he was still rolling back and throwing, but I was catching him clean. He went down again, and I looked back, and he'd got up. I hit him with another barrage of punches. The referee stepped in, said enough is enough. I hope you don't mind the reflection. It's a fight that defines me this week against Takam, my first fight since that April night. It'll define me in my career, a night to give me strength this week. Sal, first of all, I love the fact that we're getting these from my man Johnston. I don't see it anywhere here in the States, so I appreciate that. But I can't help but think, and he said it right as he started the diary, Sal, that he still is thinking about the Klitschko fight. I'm taking it like he's still using it as a source of energy to help him through. How do you see it? Do you see that he's? I mean, shouldn't he be putting it behind him?
Billy, good question and good point. But I will tell you, in every successful fighter's career on a world-class level, there's always that one fight that defines who he is and he's proud of, and he can use as an emotional recall to understand what he put his body through and where his mind was to recall and to prepare. I think it's genuine. I think it's respectful. I think it's a great insight, and I have even more respect for him that he did share it. I could tell you, like I said, there is one fight that a fighter can recall that he feels that defined who he is inside, where he had to dig deep, where he had to come back against the odds, and where he proved to be who he was. That's why I sometimes say, some of these fighters like Deontay Wilder, maybe there's a moment in the future for him to feel that same thing. And when you look back at that kind of fight that you experienced and that you felt so proud, so good, yet humble, yes, it can be a motivator. It can be an instruction tool. It can be a programmed outline of you knowing that there's no limit of how deep you can dig to gain a victory. If your heart and your passion, your focus and your blinders are on. And I can empathize and I understand where he's coming from. So he's using that as like, holy smoke, I did this. I pulled through this. I know I could do anything else I need to do to beat anybody. It's a pump. It's a genuine recall that he's going through from a fight that he feels really truly defined him, who he was in the ring at that night with Vladimir Klitschko, and how he dug deep to be the one who was standing at the end of the fight. So I give him praise, and I could see what he means when he thinks back at this fight. It's not like he should move on. He is moving on. But what he's doing is using that as a benchmark to say, hey, I've been there. I arrived. I am who I am, and I can take this, and I can do anything. So it's a good confidence builder. It really is.
You know, I have never reached the level of success as Anthony Joshua has, and I never will. And I've never been an athlete, a superstar athlete, and I never will. But from what I understand, I mean, and I hear it over and over and over in every sport, not just boxing, but every sport, the quarterback that throws the interception, the first thing that they're told, put it behind you, you got the next play, forget it. I remember, when I did play football, it's like you play for the down, you make a mistake, move on, and boxing is no different. Okay, you had a bad round, that round's over, let's start the fight again, or let's move on to the next round. And with that said, I get what you're saying, and I agree with you. But with that said, I'm saying to myself, here's Anthony Joshua, pretty much a guy that's got a lot of pressure on him because, we've always said, as goes the heavyweight division, so goes boxing. And Anthony Joshua is the heavyweight division right now, and at least in my opinion. And, here he is. He's got a last-minute sub in Carlos Takam, and, it clearly is going to be a different fight than what he was preparing for against Kubrat Pulev. And, the truth of the matter is here he is reflecting on the Klitschko fight. All of those feelings and emotions, I get that he's experienced and felt, et cetera, but, I guess I'm missing where I see the connection. I mean, yes, like you said, he's saying, hey, if I got through that, if I got up against, the guy who was running the heavyweight division and put him down and showed him that I had the heart and the resistance. And yes, I made it into those championship rounds, and I crossed all these thresholds that I was wondering about. And he's still thinking about it. Shouldn't he be putting it behind him and start focusing on Carlos Takam? I mean, this is the fight at hand. It's a couple of days away. I just maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm misreading it. But what do you think?
I think you may be misreading it or misinterpreting it in a sense. I mean, he's sharing his inner soul, his essence, his thoughts. That as I reflected back, and like I said, that fight, the 10-round main event fight I had down with that Robert Choo Choo Dixon, this is the first time I had the bloodbath war, and 135 stitches, 4 cuts, 2 perforated eardrums, separated retina. The doctor wanted to stop the fight 3 times. I wouldn't let them. I told him I could go on, and I beat him, a 10-round unanimous decision. And that fight, to me, after that fight, looking back, and I said to myself, anybody else is nothing. It's compared. I really realized that, wow, this was 10 rounds. I punched bell to bell. It was a war, and it was great, and I loved it. And if any one fight that I can recall, I would like people to see that fight. But the bottom line is this. Anthony Joshua, like I said, he's confident. He's a champion. That fight to him means he arrived. He feels like he is who he is, and he belongs in the heavyweight championship division. With that belt around him. And not that he doubted himself before, but that's the first time, as he shared with everybody, that he had to go into the later rounds that he had to get up off the canvas. So he knows that he was able to recall and to dig deep to his soul, to his courage, to his. Believe me, it's like you got to fight that one more round. You come off that stool, it's not over. Boxing on that level, you have to be so focused, so into the fight, because you think about it. You have nothing else to think about, to do. You can't run. You can't hide. You're going back to your stool. You're gonna get up off that stool, and you're going out to face another opponent. And it's grueling in the late rounds like that. And surely, you don't flight or fight. You do that. You just stand and you fight. And like I said, this is the first time he had to pick himself up off the canvas. He didn't know what that was like before. As we say, we don't practice falling down and getting up. That's one thing in the sparring we try to not have to recall. And his conditioning, how he said when he went back to the corner, he felt himself getting better and feeling more energetic. So these are things that he is saying to himself, hey, I did it. I've been there. I could do it. I could beat anybody. So I give him a pass on that, Bill. I think he got past the Klitschko fight, and he is focusing on Takam. But I think he's using that as a proud moment in his life, saying, wow, this is what I accomplished, and this guy is going to be, as Hyman Roth would say about Clemenza, small potatoes. I think he's fine with this. I give him credit for even sharing it with us.
I got some more quotes from Anthony Joshua, who's on a conference call last night. And, keep it in mind, Anthony Joshua was only 28 years old. He's 19-0. All of his fights ended via a knockout. So he's 19-0 and 19 knockouts. And for all the people that don't think that he's fought anybody, with the exception of Klitschko, all you got to do is look at his resume. I mean, he has fought the best available fighters to him. He said, and everything that comes out of this guy's mouth, sometimes when you look at fighters and you listen to what they say, you say, well, they were well coached. Someone told them how to say it, what to say, everything. And if that's the case with Anthony Joshua, more power to his team for really keeping him grounded and so on and so forth. But I think a lot of it is AJ the man himself. I got a quote for you. He said, When you watch a George Foreman and Ron Lyle kind of a fight, or a Ali and Foreman fight where a bit of their soul and spirit disappears, I always wondered how they were doing it and how they were taking those shots. You always question how, why, and what makes people do what they do. Until I personally went through it, I would always watch boxing, but now I don't just watch it, I understand it. I know that the thing that you can't be taught is how to survive in the trenches.
Right.
I just feel like my heart is very big, and I wear it on my sleeve in this sport. I have another quote concerning Deontay Wilder, but Sal, the statement that I just read, the statement from Anthony Joshua, I think puts it in perspective. This is a guy that's becoming a well-rounded world champion in every aspect, not only inside the ring but outside the ring. And then the way he's referring to these classic fights is also showing me that he has an interest and a respect, which is important to me, for the fighters that came before him and what they gave to the sport. Put their bodies and everything on the line for the love of the sport and for the future of the sport, and for guys like him to benefit. What's your thoughts?
You hit it on the head. I mean, this guy is a historian. He's well schooled, and like I said, Bill, until you go for 10 rounds, until you have to pick yourself up, until you are looking at a standing 8 count, until you are realizing that you can come back from a deficit and come back strong and come back and win and be the victor at the end of the fight, you don't know. That is uncharted water. And here he was, 18-0, and even in his mind, back in the mind back there, he probably going into the Klitschko fight said, wow, this guy has been a world beater for 10 years or how many years, and I've got to go in there now, and I've got to try to to really prove and who I am and what I am and define what I'm all about. So those were questions, and I'm sure he was asking himself. But by the end of the fight, he had those questions answered. So that's why he's reflecting back. That's been his benchmark. And yes, he used the history of boxing and the greats that came before him. You use that, Bill. I would look at all those great fights myself and look at the great Roberto Duran, who I tried to emulate and I loved. I thought he was great. And I'll debate anybody as far as being a lightweight champion. I still think Roberto Duran could probably have been the best lightweight ever. Definitely one of the top 3 lightweights ever to step in a ring. I think that whatever fuel, whatever fire, whatever source, this guy is the legit real deal. I mean, like I said, he respects boxing, he respects its history, he respects those who came before him that he's used to school, to emulate, to try and admire, and to say, I'm going to make them my own. This is my pathway, and I see where they're coming from now. So everything he's saying right now, like you said, unless somebody is writing this for him, this is a script right out of his soul, and I think it says a lot. And I have more respect for him. More respect for him right now than I did even 10 minutes ago.
Exactly. One last thing I wanted to say. They were asked. They asked Deontay, of course, the question that everybody asks him about having a unification / showdown with Deontay Wilder. Who, in my opinion, is a fraud. I mean, no disrespect to Deontay himself, the man, but his record and everything that is built up around him. Even statements that he has been told to say. Nobody's destroying guys like me. Nobody wants to fight me. Everybody's scared of me. So of course everybody wants to see the Wilder versus AJ fight. And when asked about it. Asked if he wanted the fight, and et cetera, Anthony Joshua said, "It sounds good. I want to fight Deontay Wilder. What else am I going to do in 2018, provided that I don't have any mandatories? I'll be a free agent. If dealt correctly with Eddie Hearn," he's referring to Team Deontay Wilder, and the U.S., I think it could be built into something just like the Klitschko fight. It should be better. Having that fight in the USA could make sense. I could tell you a million things, but the reason I'm saying that is because I do have some professional people in the background that's advising me on what I should do. I can see this fight happening in the United States. If you came to Wembley on April 29th, you saw what that was like. It was phenomenal. That was really good. So do we want to create that again, or should we go overseas, referring to the U.S., and do something new? It's good to have these kinds of options. Again, he's saying all the right things. Personally, for him to come to the United States does not make sense. He could make a hell of a lot more money by having the fight at Wembley Stadium with 90,000. There is no question that a fight between AJ and Deontay Wilder would generate the interest in fight fans overseas. They would never, as big as the fight is, they would never get the gate here in the U.S. that they could get in England. And with that said, they still could make the fight a pay-per-view and still offer it on American television and still make all the money that they would make by staging the fight in the United States. To me, Sal, it's a no-brainer. There's no way that the fight should be in the U.S. The U.S. fans know who Anthony Joshua is. We don't need him to come here to introduce him, etc., etc. The fight should take place in England. He's the man. Deontay has to go to him. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think the majority of fans do know Anthony Joshua. We haven't really seen him up close and personal. He really hasn't. We haven't seen him fight out of his backyard. And I know that was one of his incentives and motivations to come to the U.S. to fight. And again, if this is something that he is looking forward to and can get up for, I mean, it was like the first time I was supposed to fight at Madison Square Garden against Kenny Bazemore for a 12-rounder championship fight. I mean, I was so excited about that. And I got up for that. I wanted to fight. The legacy, the whole tradition of Madison Square Garden. Wow. I mean, you got to get up for that. And his incentive, he loves the United States. He knows he has a fan following here. And not to take his fan base in the UK for granted, I can understand how he can want to travel to the U.S. And you know what? Maybe a fight in the U.S. would help him even further gain the popularity and the notoriety with fight fans, but even the secondary and tertiary fight fans that have an interest. Maybe it's going to be an impact. Maybe he thinks he's going to make a certain statement here in the United States. He's going to come back in someone else's backyard, literally not Brooklyn for Deontay Wilder or Tennessee or whatever he wants to do. But I think, having a venue for a world heavyweight title fight in Madison Square Garden, or as I say, in Bob Bennett's backyard in Vegas, is something that Deontay Wilder does want to see in his future. Not Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua does want to see in his future. It's just a natural pathway of where he feels that he can get up for a fight and do a great job. But on the other side of the coin, Wembley has been his kingdom, his base, and no pun intended with the kingdom. But
hey, hold that thought, Sal. I got to take a break, my man. All right. I mean, they're very strict. They're very strict with me, Sal. So I got to take a break. We'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back.
Stop. Living with hair loss, that is. Losing your hair is no fun, and no one wants to be bald. But there is hope.
Getting my hair back was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm happy with the way I look now.
I'm very excited about my hair.
I feel beautiful.
I love my hair.
Hair Club offers all proven hair loss solutions backed by our commitment to satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied with the solution you choose, Hair Club will apply the purchase price to another proven hair loss solution or transplant more hair at no charge.
And it was the best thing I've ever done.
It looks good on me.
Call in the next 5 minutes to get your free brochure at no obligation. It will tell you everything you need to know about your hair loss problem, and it's free if you call now.
I am more pleased than what I had even imagined.
I at least look, I would say, 5 years younger.
I'm 52, and I look better now than I did when I was in my 40s.
I feel great.
And that's not all. The first 100 people who call will also receive $250 off any hair loss solution from Hair Club. Call now.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system break down, bust your budget, or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
You save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And in case you're just tuning in, we are talking about Anthony Joshua, some comments he's made, and a great diary that we're getting forwarded to us from a Billy C. Boxing contributor in Johnston. He has been kind enough to send us the diary that Anthony Joshua has been publicizing, well, I should say printing in the England newspapers leading up to his fight this weekend. I got some other news. A lot of people are always talking about Deontay Wilder fighting Dillian Whyte, Sal. And Dillian Whyte is ranked at number 3 in the WBC. Which is the belt that Deontay Wilder holds. And, it's a very good possibility that Wilder will fight Whyte. I mean, it's actually a fight that is winnable for Deontay Wilder. I think Dillian Whyte is a bit overrated. I mean, I think Dillian Whyte's a good fighter, and I like the fight between him and Deontay Wilder, and I do think it's a fight that Deontay Wilder needs to fight because he really hasn't fought anyone yet of note. But Dillian Whyte has thrown some gas on the fire. Basically, let me read a quote. Dillian Whyte says, "Deontay Wilder is a disgrace. I want to get in a position to fight for his belt because he's not going to do it voluntarily. They will say AJ is number 1. He has multiple belts, and he's the one who's fighting the names. Wilder is a chump. He's not fought a mandatory in over 2 years, and Joseph Parker is defending his title on YouTube, so that shows what his level is. That says it all. AJ's the man at the minute. I want a rematch with Joshua. I'd like to fight Parker or Wilder first. They are the 2 weakest world champions. I'd beat either one of those, which would then set up a massive rematch with Joshua in England, at Wembley or in Cardiff, or even another country. Shit, I'd even fight him in Nigeria." So, throwing some fuel on the fire there, Sal. When I break down Dillian Whyte's record, he really hasn't fought anybody. I mean, when you take a look at him, his big wins. I mean, he had a win over a 9-0 David Allen. Brian Minto is a journeyman, if you want to give him credit for that. And Derek Chisora was a fight that many people thought Derek Chisora won. Aside from that, his only loss came at the hands of Anthony Joshua. He's 21-1. He hasn't fought anybody else. I mean, I think it's a good matched fight between him and Deontay Wilder, but the question is, will Deontay have the you-know-whats to step in there and fight the guy?
That's a big question. I mean, like we said, Deontay Wilder could believe that he is the biggest and the baddest on the planet. And, but I believe that the people around him are the ones that are kind of choreographing and making the decisions on who, what, when, and where he's going to fight. I could see that fight being a very good fight. And I thought you might have written that for this guy, but I had Dillian White. But I would like to see this fight, and I think that he would have to, definitely show everything that he's talking about by beating Deontay Wilder. And Bill, and I know we have a difference of opinion. I don't think we've seen the best Deontay Wilder yet, and are we going to get in that position to see it when he fights someone that we know and respect? Yeah, then we might be able to see who the true, real Deontay Wilder is.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to see the real Deontay Wilder because he's never going to fight a real fight. And when he does, he's going to lose. But that's my thoughts anyway. But I just don't think that he has a chance against AJ. You do?
On a freakish level, I think he's got a chance. And like I said, I'd be a hypocrite if I said anything different, because I'm the one that says, hey, any given night, anything can happen in that ring. And we don't know what each man possesses or comes into that squared circle for that evening, what's going to happen with their psyche, their body, their mind, and where it is and how it's set. So any given night, anything could happen in that ring. And Deontay Wilder is no chump. I mean, the guy has, as we would sometimes define as, freakish punching power. And he does have some of the tools that it takes to be where he is. I don't think he has all the tools. But then again, like I said, I don't think we've seen the best Deontay Wilder thus far. And hopefully, if he does get a fight with AJ, it'll be a competitive fight. We will see if Deontay Wilder does dig down and shows everybody what he thinks he's all about. And if he can, then that's great. If not, then guess what? You're right all along. He was just fabricated, and he was protected, and the end goes of that career, that kind of thing. He'll be just hovering on the top for a while until somebody else puts him back down again. So it's got to be a showdown. It's got to be a fight made, and I hope we see it in 2018. But until then, ciao, baby. No, I'm teasing.
Hey, use your own line.
Use my own. I plagiarized that one. How you like that?
But anyway, talk about a fight. The World Series is going to be a fight. Last night we had the first game of the World Series, and what a game it was. A pitcher's duel for sure. Arguably the two top pitchers in baseball went head-to-head, and at the end, Clayton Kershaw got the W. The Dodgers beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers beat the Astros 3-1 to take a 1-0 World Series lead over the Astros. Dallas Keuchel, and I know I pronounced his name wrong. I don't know why I can't say this guy's name. It's whatever. He got the loss tonight. The Astros put their other ace on the mound. Justin Verlander is going up against Rich Hill from the Dodgers. So let's see if the Dodgers can get 2 in a row, or if the Astros even it up before they go back to Houston. In the National Hockey League, the Islanders, who starting off pretty good this year, beat the Coyotes 5-3. The Ducks beat the Flyers 6-2. The Penguins over the Oilers 2-1 in overtime. The Lightnings over the Hurricanes 5-1. The Sabres topped the Red Wings 1-0. The Canadians over the Panthers 5-1. The Kings beat the Senators in a shootout 3-2. Also in a shootout, the Flames beat the Predators 3-2. The Avalanche topped the Stars 5-3. The Canucks shut out the Wild 1-0. And the Las Vegas Golden Knights go to 7 wins and 1 loss when they beat the Blackhawks 4-2. In NBA action, the Cavaliers topped the Bulls 119-112. The Magic beat my Nets 125-121. The Celtics beat the Knickerbockers 110-89. The Pacers over the Timberwolves 130-107. The Trailblazers 103. Pelicans 93. Clippers beat the Jazz 102-84. That gets you caught up with some other sports. And I'm looking forward to that second game of the World Series tonight. And I'm certainly looking forward to some good fights on the tube over the weekend. Man, I'm
yeah,
I don't
know. It's okay.
What?
Take your time. Think of what you want to say.
You got me nervous, Sally. I'm all nervous. It's all these people. No, I'm watching some of the chat going on in the chat room, and we got my man Oddfella who's saying that Anthony Joshua will lose to Deontay Wilder. So, hey, listen, I'm glad that some people think that, because you know what? When everybody knows that a fighter is going to beat another fighter, it's not going to be a competitive fight. I don't personally think that Deontay Wilder has a chance against AJ. I think Deontay Wilder is a fraud, but I want to see the fight. And I'm glad that people do think he's got a chance, because that makes it more the interesting as far as I'm concerned, Sal.
Yeah, no, it's true. And like I said, I don't think it's a slam dunk for AJ. I think, Deontay Wilder is going to have some things that he's going to be able to rise to the occasion. I think he'll do. I'm not saying he's going to beat AJ, but I think, we've yet to see the best Deontay Wilder. Now, whether it's all going to be fabricated and a farce, and he doesn't have what I think he does have, time's going to tell when he's in with the world, top of the world. So we'll see. I think he's got a little bit more than what he's showing us.
Well, I hope so. Hey, Sal, I know you got some things to do, and we'll look forward to you tomorrow, my man.
All right, guys, I want to thank you so much, Billy, for the opportunity and the time we spent this morning over my coffee mug. And I want you to have a great day, you and everybody out there. Thank you so much, and take care.
All right, brother. Take care.
See you tomorrow.
Sal, Rocky, Senecola, having to do some stuff, so he's going to take care of that. Me, I'm going to take care of some business, because I'm going to take a break, and when I come back, I'm scheduled to have my man Larry Hazard join us. And don't go anywhere, because after Larry, we got Alex Papali coming on with this week's Blast from the Past, which is a kid, really. Unfortunately, we lost him too young. Edwin Valerio is the guy we're going to be talking about. So a lot of stuff coming up. Don't go nowheres, because we'll be right back.
Billy C will be right back.
Broken air conditioning, $4,400. Failing refrigerator, $2,500. Don't let outrageous repair and replacement bills like these bust your budget. Get the First American Home Warranty Plan. And when a covered appliance or system breaks, we'll repair it or replace it for you.
We had a high-end dishwasher go kaput. They put it in a brand new dishwasher.
We have plans that cover air conditioning, most appliances, plus heating, plumbing, electrical systems, and much more. Plans start as low as $25 a month. Why let a major appliance or system breakdown bust your budget, or go through the hassle of finding trustworthy service people? Last year alone, we saved our customers over $120 million. Don't wait until something breaks and you're stuck with a huge bill.
We save a lot of money.
It's absolutely worth it.
If you don't have First American Warranty, get it.
Call 1-800-946-6234 for your free no-obligation quote.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Are you currently on Medicare? In other words, do you carry the red, white, and blue Medicare card? If so, are you suffering from chronic back pain? If you answered yes, you may be eligible for a pain-relieving back brace covered by Medicare at little to no cost, shipped directly to your home for free. These medical-grade back braces are ideal for lower back pain, arthritis, spinal disorders, and other chronic back problems. Will you qualify for a medical-grade back brace?
Call Back Brace America at 1-800-290-8300.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell them Billy C sent ya.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at the stretch of that man, I would think.
Palla tagliata, messa fuori, c'è Pirlo.
You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York in the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves. The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, talking boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us today. And joining me right now is my man Larry Hazard. Good morning, Larry.
Hey, good morning, Billy. How you doing?
Not too bad. Before I get your thoughts on some of the fights from last weekend, I got an email for you. This is from my man Mitch. He's got a couple of questions for you. He said he listened. This is to you. He says, Larry, I listened to your Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame speech. You said that you toiled in the vineyards of amateur boxing for over 11 years before being brought to Atlantic City. My questions are this. Number one, where were you before you were brought to Atlantic City? So I'll let you answer each one before I give you the second and third. So the first one is, where were you before you were brought to Atlantic City?
Well, I was basically doing amateur boxing around the metropolitan area of New Jersey, and I did some in that mid-Atlantic region of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, from 1967 until 1978. Okay, and in 1978, that's when professional boxing came to the casinos in Atlantic City. And at that time, I was recruited out of the amateur ranks by the deputy commissioner who worked under Jersey Joe Walcott, who actually was the commissioner of professional boxing in New Jersey, a fellow by the name of Robert W. Lee, Bob Lee. He recruited me out of the amateurs and brought me to Atlantic City to do professional boxing in 1978. So up until that time, I was doing amateur boxing around the metropolitan area, Newark, Jersey City, New Jersey, metropolitan area. And I turned professional in 1978.
The second question, he says, if you didn't become the commissioner in Atlantic City, and obviously it's not just for Atlantic City, it's for the whole state, or decided to leave boxing, what do you think you would have done instead?
Well, I would have stayed in education. I was a school teacher. I was a physical education and health teacher. Then I was a vice principal, and ultimately I was a school principal. I was a high school principal when Tom Kane, the former governor of New Jersey, in 1985, made me the athletic commissioner. Now, during all of those years when I was teaching, I was also refereeing professionally. In 1978, I was still in the education profession. So I would have stayed in education and perhaps, ascended the ladder, to higher positions in education. Maybe at some point, I think I would have been motivated to become a college professor, or even at that time, I had my sights on becoming an attorney, a lawyer. So it's no question, I don't know where I would have done, but I definitely would have still stayed in education had I not been recruited and made the boxing commissioner.
I'm glad you decided to get into boxing, man, and get out of the teaching profession. That's for sure. Not that and the ironic twist is that you're a great teacher for boxing. So, it's good. It's good. So the last question he's got is it normal to float around in the amateurs for such a long time, whether it be as a judge or a referee? To me, this is Mitch, being in the amateurs for 11 years seems like a lifetime. Before you answer that question, to me, I don't understand the question because, in a sense, maybe that's half the problem we have today in the sport, Larry, because people don't do their time, so to speak. Don't you learn? If you make it to the pros in football or basketball or baseball, you've spent a good amount of time in the amateur ranks, whether it be college football or baseball or even going back further than that to the high school level. I mean, you need the experience. You can't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a pro. Is it the same?
Well, you're reading my mind, Billy, because, and you answered my question partially. 11 years, I think, was a long time. But there was no doubt in my mind when I stepped up to the professional ranks, I was ready. When I became the commissioner, realizing that it was so important that you learn all of the basic skills of refereeing and judging, I instituted a rule in New Jersey that you had to serve at least a minimum of 5 years in the amateur ranks before you could apply to become a professional. That's in the state of New Jersey. And all of the officials that officiate professionally in New Jersey come from the New Jersey amateur ranks. There are no walk-ons in officiating in New Jersey. They have to attend seminars, and they must serve an apprenticeship of at least 5 years and come with a recommendation from the president of USA Boxing that oversees amateur boxing in New Jersey. So I do not think that 11 years is too long. I think that 11 years, someone should be really equipped to do the job at the professional level. So, that's basically the way I feel about that one.
Well, I appreciate you answering the email. Now I want to ask you some stuff on the fights from this past weekend. First and foremost, what a great show in Jersey, huh? I mean, that Gaziev took care of Vlad Zarek. Vlad Zarek was a guy that pretty much controlled the cruiserweight division for years. And I can't say enough about the World Boxing Super Series and what Schaefer's done with this. I really hope, as much as I'm loving the cruiserweights and the fact that this tournament, Larry, is putting them in the forefront, from being a guy that was right in the trenches in Jersey, doing the weigh-ins, being there for the fight, could you get a sense that the fans were being receptive to the cruiserweights and the good fights? Do you see that the impact from the World Boxing Super Series, at least from the tournament that the tournament result that you saw in Jersey, is it working or is it going to be short-lived?
Well, the heavyweights better look out because the fans were ecstatic. That was, I give that promotion an A+. I was so happy and so proud that we didn't have any glitches. The fights were fantastic, and those cruiserweights really performed. And you're talking about classic punch. Gaziev hit him with a classic liver shot. He went down and didn't get up. And I said, man, what a way to end the night. But I think that World Boxing Super Series is just what the doctor ordered for boxing. And I hope, and in talking to Richard Schaefer, he wants to really cultivate that series, that weight. He really is looking forward to coming back to New Jersey, hopefully to do a cruiserweight championship fight at the Prudential Arena. And I think that it was a great success. And I would hope that they would do it in other weight classes, because I think that's really what boxing needs, where the best fights the best in a tournament. See, fans are used to tournaments, and it's a good thing. You know, you have tournaments in almost every other sport. You know, you got the NBA finals, you got the football, NFL, all of these things. You know, and the fans know they're tournament oriented. Boxing is the only major sport where fans are really not used to tournaments. So I think that this is a new concept, and from what I saw Saturday night, it is definitely one that can catch on and will catch on, okay, if he continues in this fashion. With the fights those cruiserweights put on, I think it's going to be a fantastic tournament, and I think that it's a great idea for the whole sport of boxing, and I hope to see it in other weight classes.
Yeah, I listen, I love the cruiserweight division, and I'm glad that the fights are they've been so exciting. And the best part about this, Larry, and you're right, you know, the fans love the tournament, the build up, that you don't know who you're going to fight next. I mean, that's almost like recreating the old rivalries that we don't have anymore, you know, and you have a town against a town or a city against a city or whatever that everybody's afraid to do today because they don't want to upset anybody. I mean, could you imagine like they had in the 50s and 60s where, you know, it'd be the Irish against the Italian night or the Jewish against the Italian. You know, no, they wouldn't do that now because somebody might get offended. Oh, whoa, what are you doing? You know, so they're afraid. So the promoters got their hands tied, you know, and, you know, here we got a tournament which kind of fills that void a little bit. But the best part of this tournament is the fact that these guys, and you and I had talked about this before, which is pretty pathetic for the U.S. fighters, but these guys, most of them have titles. So they're actually showing the world in not so many words that, hey, what's more important, to show I'm the best or bring my trinket with me? And they're showing the world that they want to prove that they're the best by fighting the other guys that have belts. And I applaud them for doing it.
Oh, that's great. It's really great. And just to touch on what you just said about the what I call the ethnic rivalry. You know, boxing has hung its hat for years on the ethnic rivalries, which were back in the 50s and 60s. It was clean boxing. I mean, there was nothing, you know, we weren't so politically correct. There was nothing mean-spirited about it. It just gave different groups of people ethnic pride through boxing. And these guys shook hands. They became the best of friends and respect for one another for years and years. There was nothing nasty or mean-spirited about it. But what has happened over time in society, we have become so politically correct that we take away from the goodness of in this case, the sport of boxing. You know, then there was the geographic rivalry. You know, the kid from the east side versus the kid from Harlem, or the kid from, you know, the west side versus, you know, a kid from the east side, or Chicago versus California, New York. You know, this is what the sport has been built on. And we need to go back and get some more of that flavor again. And so I'd love to see it, you know, and I think that this tournament kind of leans that way with these guys. They have their belts, you know, I'm the IBF champion or I'm the WBC champion. I'm going to prove that I'm the best, you know. So it's a great thing, man, and I hope that it just continues to snowball and get bigger and bigger because it's what the sport needs.
I agree. You know, we started that years ago with the Super Six, and they all ran away from it. And I think the reason was that the fighters weren't willing to do it because they didn't realize the risk at first until they got the L. Then they were like, oh, geez, you know, wait a minute, you know. And again, that gets blamed on the promoters and the networks for having the lack of knowledge about what makes a fighter a good fighter, and you shouldn't be just looking at the record. That's why this kid, everybody's a kid to me now, but Eddie Hearn coming over to the U.S., he's going to take you watch, this guy is making this world smaller because he's going to come over, and the way he his practice and thinking things all the way through. You know, I'm sure his main concern is to make money, just like every other promoter. But this guy's thinking it through, and he realizes that it's not smart to trip over dollars to save pennies. And he's thinking things through, and he's going to leave the U.S. promoters in the dirt, in the dust. You watch, man. But anyway, a fight that I still don't understand what I witnessed. I was ringside for the Turning Stone fights, and Demetrius Andrade fought Alantes Fox in a middleweight fight. And I had learned after the fight, or actually during that night, that Demetrius had vacated his 154-pound title. He fought this fight at 160, and he beats a guy in a boring fashion. And I said to myself, why did he do this? Because I don't see him beating any of the top, what I call top middleweights, like Triple G, Canelo, David Lemieux, Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, those top guys. It seems like a silly move for him. But then again, he's got some monster guys in the junior middleweight division. What was your thoughts on the move and the fight itself?
Well, I thought the fight was really very boring. And I think that I'm glad you said that, because I was wondering what the heck was Kellerman and Lampley talking about. You know, you said, I don't know if you heard these guys. They were making Andre. This is Andrade, or they Andre, okay? They were making it seem like he was a real challenge for some of the guys in the middleweight division. And I'm like, hey, are they for real? I said, this guy, he relinquishes his belt and moves up to middleweight. He's going nowhere against any of those guys. And to tell you the truth, Fox, I don't know who's training him. He's the guy, is he really 6 feet? Was he really as tall as they would say? 6'5"? Because since when does a 6'5" fighter make himself conveniently small by fighting the way that he did, bending it down, instead of, using his range? With the right training, with the right instruction, he could have won that fight easily. With his height, with his length and everything else. But he fought, he was like, here I am, and like these guys agreed that this is the way we're going to fight. This entire fight, very boring, and that Andrade was going to win the fight. But he's going nowhere in the middleweight division. I can tell you that right now.
No, he can't. And you know what? You see, what's starting to happen in boxing, thank God, we're getting fighters that are fighting in exciting fashion. And I think the fans are finally realizing that the definition of the sweet science doesn't necessarily mean that you have to run across the ring and avoid the punch. That, you can be exciting and still display sweet science by avoiding a punch while you're engaging. And a lot of the young fighters, now that we're getting a chance to see them, are doing just that. Demetrius Andrade isn't. He's a guy that sits in the pocket. He has extreme skill set. I mean, this is a guy that's got hand speed. He's got good head movement. He's accurate with his punches, but he doesn't throw enough of them, Larry. He throws 1-2. That's it. And he will never be exciting. And for the longest time, I was blaming his promotional team, which consists of Star and Banner Promotions. He's co-promoted. But the truth of the matter is he's not doing anything for himself either. He's not. I mean, he should have taken this kid out. He had him hurt, and he fought the safety first. I think I saw him throw 1 3-punch combination. The rest of it was all 1-2s all night long. And I can't see, and I'm with you. He's not going to go very far in the middleweight division. That's for sure. I see them setting him up. I think he cut a deal. He's going to fight that Murata kid out of Japan who just won the title from the Dom, and then he's going to say he's the main guy in the middleweight division. So I don't know. But the other fight I wanted to ask you about was the main event, and this again goes back to something you and I have talked a lot about. We need to go back to same-day weigh-ins, Larry, because what that'll do for the sport of boxing is it'll give us a true representation of the weight classes, and I think it'll be safer for the fighters long term. When you look at the featherweight, Jezreel Corrales, who lost his belt on the scale, he was 3.5. After he lost another half a pound, he was still 3.5 pounds over, and he goes into the fight, and to me, that's an indication of a guy that just can't lose the weight. I mean, he's trying to gain the advantage of drying himself out and so on and so forth. And the truth of the matter is he's fighting in the wrong weight class. And at the end of the night, he ends up getting knocked out by a guy really he shouldn't have. If you put him, where they were in terms of, that weight class, how good he was. Albert Machado comes in and knocks this guy out. What's your thoughts on the fight and the fact that maybe we should go back to same-day weigh-ins?
Well, I had a discussion. It's funny. It's ironic. I had a discussion with the supervisor for the IBF at the Super Series. And as you know, those guys, they had to weigh in on Friday. And then the IBF has this stupid rule that the next morning they have to weigh in again, and the fighter cannot put on more than 10 pounds. So he wanted to know my opinion on the next day weigh-in. I said, I think it's ridiculous. Once you have the official weigh-in, then that's it. Now, if you're going to weigh the fighter the next day, then why not let's go back to same-day weigh-in? Because that's what it appears you're saying anyway. Okay? I am totally in favor of the same-day weigh-in, the way that it was in boxing for over 100 years. There's nothing wrong with the weigh-in. But you know what happened in the Dooku Kim fight. And then some bright doctor came up with the theory of fighters not having enough time to rehydrate and all this other nonsense. Okay, they were rehydrating, for over 100 years, so somebody wanted to make it look as though they were solving the problem. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to have the weigh-in the day before. But I agree 100% that we should go back the same day weigh-in and leave it the way it was. And if a fighter, can't make the weight, then he should move to the next weight class. All this drying out and all this other stuff that's unhealthy is crazy. And I think that we actually encourage it with the way that we're doing things administratively. So I'm with you 100% on it.
I lost the last part, Larry. Are you still there, Larry?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, I lost that. I lost you for a second. What was the last part that you said?
No, I said that I'm on that same-day weigh-in.
Right. No, I think the same-day weigh-in, I think we need, it's time. It's time to get back to the same-day weigh-ins. There's no question about that.
Sure. So if a fighter can't make the weight, then he should move to the next weight class.
Well, with so many guys losing their titles on the scale, I think that's enough proof right there that's showing that they just can't do it. Their bodies can't do it. And I just think that. Listen, 2 weeks ago when I saw that Jared Hurd in the ring, I'm looking at this guy going, he looks like a cruiserweight. I mean, it just we got to have a real weight class. And then as far as the Dooku Kim, they said the 15 rounds, the way. Listen, the reason why they changed the weigh-in, let's make no mistake, they made it sound like it's a safety issue, but it was to ensure the television networks that if a guy decided not to fight his opponent because he didn't make weight, that they would have 24 hours to do something else. You know what I mean? I think that was the true reason.
I agree. That's all it was.
Right.
That's all it was.
Right.
And you know what's happening? What's starting to happen now is that the fighters are telling them, hey, look, I can't make the weight, so I ain't, some of the fighters ain't going to refuse to get on the scale. You know what I mean?
No, I know. So, I know. It's comical, really, Larry, you going in and out, my man. Listen, we will catch up with you next week. All right, after the Anthony Joshua fight this weekend. I hope we got a lot of good things to talk about.
Okay, Billy.
All right, my man.
Sorry to be on the road this morning.
No,
that's why I had to have you call me.
Yeah, no, I figured, man. I thought maybe you were going through one of them tunnels, you know.
No, I'm on the highway. Okay, Billy.
All right,
I'll talk
brother.
to you next week.
All right, man. Take care. That's Larry Hazard giving us his thoughts on same-day weigh-ins. I think that the same-day weigh-in has come and should go now. It clearly does not make any sense to me. And I think that it's ruining the sport in a sense because we're not getting a true representation of the weight classes. I don't know. I agree with Larry. And I also agree with him about the World Boxing Super Series and the Cruiserweight division. I'm excited and hope that the fans will continue to follow the Cruiserweight division after the tournament is over. Hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, we're scheduled to have Alex Papali join us with his brand new mic. He's all excited about it. So we're looking forward to that. And we're going to be doing the Blast from the Past on a former world champion and a guy that's left us too soon, Edwin Valero. And that was as per request. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
Listen to this important message. If you owe money to the IRS, you will want to hear this. Penalties and interest compound daily on your back taxes, putting you under a mountain of debt. Tax 10,000 has years of experience connecting people with tax resolution specialists. Working through the IRS Fresh Start program, they will handle all the necessary forms, and if you qualify, you may end up saving thousands of dollars. Call Tax 10,000 at 800-773-4604.
Stop living with hair loss, that is. Losing your hair is no fun, and no one wants to be bald, but there is hope.
Getting my hair back was the best thing that ever happened to me.
I'm happy with the way I look now. I'm very excited about my hair.
I feel beautiful.
I love my hair.
Hair Club offers all proven hair loss solutions backed by our commitment to satisfaction guarantee. If you're not 100% satisfied with the solution you choose, Hair Club will apply the purchase price to another proven hair loss solution or transplant more hair at no charge.
That was the best thing I've ever done.
It looks good on me.
Call in the next 5 minutes to get your free brochure at no obligation. It will tell you everything you need to know about your hair loss problem, and it's free if you call now.
I am more pleased than what I had even imagined.
I at least look, I would say, 5 years younger.
I'm 52, and I look better now than I did when I was in my 40s.
I feel great.
And that's not all. The first 100 people who call will also receive $250 off any hair loss solution from Hair Club. Call now.
This is important news for people who had a hip replacement and then had to have additional surgery as the result of a faulty hip implant or were diagnosed with high levels of metal in the blood, known as metallosis. You may have a right to a cash award and medical expenses. If you have been diagnosed with high levels of metal in your blood or have required more surgery because of hip implant failure, call the law offices of Davis & Crump right now. Our first consultation is free and we don't get paid unless you get paid. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks, like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts! Why are you doing that to my face? I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning. Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're listening and watching the Billy C Show. Glad you could be with us today. And it's that time again. One of our longest running segments on the show is the Blast from the Past. And today's Blast from the Past is being brought to us in part by KOFantasyBoxing.com. Check out the website, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com, and sign up today. And it's also being brought to us in part by the Title Bout Championship computer game. Download your copy today. You can get to the link pretty quickly by visiting our website, BillyCBoxing.com, and clicking on the banner. You can't miss it. It's on the page. Maybe you can miss it. Look for it. It's there. Today's Blast from the Past, a request from one of you guys, our viewers and listeners, features a guy that left us too early, in my opinion. He was a former world champion. He was on his way to stardom, had a couple of bumps in the road, and ended up leaving us too soon. So joining me right now to tell us all about former world champion Edwin Valero is my man Alex Papali. And guess what? He doesn't know that we had the camera on him the whole time while he was getting ready. So, man, you shocked me there, brother. Don't worry, I didn't. But
I was all getting dressed.
Yeah, I know. I happen to have seen that, but thank God I don't automatically just switch the camera so everyone else could see it. It would have been like, what's going on? What kind of show is this?
Why are we watching this large man in his bedroom?
Why are we getting that view? But anyway. I do the same thing with Sal. I do the same thing with Sal. He's sitting there drinking coffee, running around. Him and when somebody else on the line at the same time, they're all talking and having fun. It's like, hey, one of these days it's gonna be candid camera. But
that's right.
Anyway, tell us about Edwin Valero. Before we get started with this. I had mixed feelings about this as a blast. We like to try to focus on fighters of years gone by, but it has kind of been a while. And, after I thought about it for not too long, I was kind of glad that we were doing this on him because, it makes me wonder, Alex, if Edwin Valero is going to be one of those guys that is forgotten because he didn't really have a chance. I mean, he was shifting into second gear. He didn't even get up to third or fourth with his career. And I just hope people remember him. He was well on his way of being a special fighter.
Oh, he absolutely was. I mean, and I think that what we saw of him will remain memorable as a certain, like you said, a special kind of fighter. However, I think the thing that's difficult to talk about this kind of a person, and I guess the only other comparison would be Carlos Monzon. Whenever you talk about somebody like this, we have to distinguish between the boxer, and the human being. And as a human being, Edwin Valero is not a very honorable one, and not really one who deserves to, be remembered fondly. But I think that's the thing about our sport, is I would hope that people have, can have a nuanced view about it. Recently, Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian, was on the Colbert show with Stephen Colbert, and they got to talking about what their influences were. And Seinfeld's major influence was Bill Cosby. And they got into a little bit of a discussion about how now it's difficult to listen to Cosby, knowing what we know about, the man. But for a while, Seinfeld disagreed very strongly with Colbert because Colbert said he can't distinguish, and he doesn't listen. And Seinfeld disagreed and said, what does one have to do with the other? Granted, it's not like you're trying to give a pass to the person. I mean, a perfect example of this time of year for me, one of my favorite all-time movies is Rosemary's Baby. Is Roman Polanski a pretty despicable person? Yeah, he sure is. But it doesn't make the movie any less. So I think that's one of the things that we got to keep in mind with Edwin Valero is, as a boxer, he was pretty incredible. But just a nasty, mean person. And I think one of the things about our sport is that it's not as prevalent as people think, because I think the stereotype is that everybody in boxing is just, you got to be a mean, nasty person to want to hurt people. We know that's not true. Somebody like you just been talking about this morning is Anthony Joshua, is probably the polar opposite of somebody like an Edwin Valero, who maybe, in his youth, he had some, acting out. But now boxing, is someplace where he can excel as a man. And, the things he's talking about are just the pinnacle of sportsmanship. The way he acted after beating Vladimir Klitschko showed that he was aware of himself in a sense of history. A guy like Edwin Valero, you didn't get that. But what you did get was just raw, vicious boxing. And for that, he is worth remembering.
He, you made a comparison to Carlos Monzon, and obviously that was I'm assuming anyway that it was the connection with the women beating, but
and murdering his wife.
Yeah, well, that too, allegedly. But the thing that bothers me about Edwin Valero is, you could take a look at his resume and. Because he fought in a lower weight class, maybe some of the names don't jump out at you, but he did fight every single guy that was, that he could have. 27-0, 27 wins by knockout. But the thing that I can't get past at all with this, Alex, is when you go back to 2003, when, Golden Boy signed him and they wanted to bring him over to the United States, and he had to succumb to some of the, medical requirements here in the States, it was discovered, and of course, Golden Boy takes the hardest state to get approved in, of course, my state of New York, in 2004 to put him on a fight card, and New York requires the head scans for all the fighters. And an MRI reveals that he had a blood clot on his brain, a result from a motorcycle accident that he had years before. Then New York put him on what was defined as an indefinite suspension. Yet he fought in Texas. And my question is I couldn't find any documentation on when and how the indefinite, which as far as I know means forever, suspension was lifted in from New York. Because the way that works is if a state puts an indefinite suspension, or any suspension for that matter, on a fighter, it's that state that has to lift it. Do you know how that happened? Because he ended up being able to fight in Texas, and he did fight in the U.S. after that. And I was just curious about that. Did you find? Because I couldn't find anything, and I don't, and the United States, they follow the Fight Facts suspension. So if you try to bring a fighter to another state and he's suspended, the protocol is you got to go back to that state where he's suspended and have them release the suspension for Fight Facts. Can you enlighten me on that?
It was 2004 when New York discovered it, and you're right. The Association of Boxing Commissions went along with it. Now, I don't have something specific that says why Texas went ahead with letting him fight. But haven't they done that before? I mean, it's Texas. Haven't they allowed fighters that were suspended before to fight? I thought that Texas had like different rules or something that I'm not sure. Maybe I should just stop talking because I'm not sure of it. But I think that there's been a couple of other instances where fighters suspended other places got around it by fighting in Texas. But you're right. Most commissions at least stateside, forbid him from fighting. Let me just back up a little bit. He was born, a quote that I think is something to think about with this guy is from a December 2008 article that was translated from Sports Illustrated Latino, and he said, this is Valero, "I fear no one. I like to hit men. It liberates me." He was born December 3rd, 1981, in Bolero Alto in the Andes Mountains in a town of the region of Merida. And he lived, was incredibly poor, lived in a 2-room house with his mom and father and 4 siblings. His parents separated when he was 7. By 9, he was splitting his time between going to school and working. He worked at the local bus station. He picked fruit and then sold it there. His mom was a dishwasher, but all the kids had to work and help out. So, he came out of absolute poverty. At 13, he started Taekwondo classes, which he claimed was the first sport he ever learned besides marbles. But it cost too much to maintain it, so to keep up the gym dues, so they had to stop. He started working in a bicycle shop at 13 years old. He was told about a gym. He went in. It was a boxing gym. That night, he moved into the gym and started sleeping in the gym. Quite a few amateur boxers slept there. Boxing turned his life around. But as we know now from Mike Tyson, when people say boxing turned his life around, it doesn't necessarily mean that stopped his criminality. I think you could kind of think about it in terms of like addiction. You don't go cold turkey from being a criminal, it seems. And he ran with a really brutal crowd. He had 30 friends that were all either killed by police or other gang members. At 16, while he was a standout amateur, at 15 he started winning national titles. But at 16 he was robbing college students at gunpoint, taking their bicycles and then stashing the bikes in the gym. He was starting to get preferential treatment by police when he would be arrested in Venezuela because of his standout boxing success. But yeah, eventually he did come to the United States. Well, first thing I think that we should mention is he knocked people out like you wouldn't believe. I mean, he scored an incredible amount of knockouts as an amateur. The percentage of knockouts, which, is a little bit rarer to get knockouts in the amateurs because of the bigger gloves and the headgear. Not only that, he would hurt guys in sparring. There's video of him sparring with Urbano Antillon when he was one of the top, super lightweights. And Valero, Antillon doesn't go down, but he all but goes down. He was just nasty, and he was really had this raw power, very quick hands, and his punches, for like a brawler or a puncher, his punches were incredibly straight. So he was dangerous. He was a very dangerous guy. But you're right, that 2001 motorcycle, that's the kind of, gangster criminal he was one of those guys you see on the motorcycles. And they'd go up and steal purses or chains or something off of people. And it was going 50 miles an hour. He got in a motorcycle accident, went flying off the bike around 20 feet, and ended up with a brain bleed. And they gave him the option of, we could it'll go away after time, or we can operate. And but either way, you're going to be out of boxing for at least 6 months.
Well, wait a minute, Alex. I don't mean to interrupt you, but what year was the motorcycle accident?
2001. It wasn't discovered until 2004.
Well, that's strange, because he fought in California several times in 2003. And they require head scans, so
they must not have done one, or they just didn't spot it.
That's even now. It makes that even stranger to me, because
I think he only fought once in California.
No, he fought at least 3 times in California. At least that, according to BoxRec, he fought.
Oh, okay. This Maywood, that's California. Yeah, you're right.
Maywood
and Irvine.
He fought in Irvine. California, at least twice.
Yeah, you're right. Twice in Irvine and once in Maywood, and there was a Caracas, Venezuela fight in between there. Yeah. But yeah, if you look at all those fights, they're all blowouts, all one-round blowouts. It's a good question. I don't know why it wasn't spotted there. It could be one of those things. Different people reading an MRI see different things. Maybe it was something as simple as that. But yeah, it was 2004 in New York. Before this point, I mean, one of the things that happened was this was a fighter who became a bit of an internet sensation before too many people saw him, and in part it was because Doug Fisher, who now writes for The Ring, he really took a liking to him and was really impressed by what he saw in sparring. And going into that fight he was supposed to have in New York, Fisher had given a lot of ink. Well, it's not ink, I guess. A lot of pixels, in the internet age, have given a lot of writing about Valero. And so it was a big letdown because, we were all excited to get a look at this guy. But because of the discovery, he was relegated to fighting overseas. Or Texas, and
right, and that's the part I just don't get, because Texas does follow. The reason why people would fight in Texas and some other states is they don't have the requirement. They don't need to do a head scan. Certain states might require a head scan after a certain age. I know Florida requires a head scan after 40 or something, but once a fight, the part that I don't get is once a fighter is on the suspension list through Fight Facts, which every commission in the United States follows, they're not allowed to fight. I mean, they won't let them fight unless the state that issued the suspension lifts it. So, that's one of those, and he only fought that one time in Texas. He went back and was fighting overseas. And then the ironic thing is when he started getting in some trouble in the States, it was in Texas where he got in trouble. He got arrested for drunk driving. So I don't know. It's hard to follow that bouncing ball. I mean, after that drunk driving arrest, everything is pretty clear and documented. But there's a big space in between for this kid. But like you had said, his style of fighting, he was destroying people. He was knocking out people in a vicious style and fashion, and he was definitely destined to be a big draw and make a lot of money. And unfortunately, it didn't happen.
Yeah, at the time, I think at some point he was brought into the wild card gym. Freddie Roach got a look at him, but he had been going around from gym to gym, it seems like, doing a lot of damage to guys. He sparred with guys, like I said, Urbano Antillon. He sparred with Juan Lascano. In the amateurs, one of the signs on his way up, I guess he really manhandled Francisco Panchito Bojado, who at the time was a rising star out in Southern California. So yeah, he definitely was destined for big things. And at one point, Freddie Roach was looking forward to having Manny Pacquiao square off against him. And I can only imagine that would be, but at the time, Pacquiao was engaged in a rivalry with a guy by the name of Eric Morales. So, Valero was right on the edge of breaking into stardom. And then when he did, the first time we saw him really with a challenge was because he had been flattening guys. Most guys he took out in the first round. He had only been into the second once when he fought Vicente Mosquera in Panama City, Panama. And in that, he dropped Mosquera twice in the first and then got dropped himself in the second. And that it just ends up a firefight, and it goes 10 rounds, and Valero stops him. So he really did look indestructible. the thing about him was that was one of those things where it does make you wonder, because here's this great big tough guy, nasty person who probably won lots of street fights. At one point in that SI Latino article, at one point he showed the interviewer his hands, and he said, "You see all these marks in my fist, these scars, these are from teeth marks, so from street fights." So, but the thing about boxing that's amazing is you could be a great street fighter, but somebody's got your number, and Vicente Mosquera dropped him and hurt him right down there in the third round, and Valero, showing the character that he had, in terms of his fighting and just the toughness, he comes back to win. But yeah, it was the fight that really made him a TV star in the U.S. of A. was when he fought Antonio DeMarco, which ended up being his last fight in Monterrey, Mexico, and that just was a thrilling bout. In the first round, DeMarco catches Valero with an elbow. As he's jabbing, his elbow gouges the forehead of Valero and leaves him with this horrible bloody gash. And Texas referee Lawrence Cole allows the fight to continue with basically through the whole fight, Valero has a hole in his forehead, but is able to just really batter Antonio DeMarco and win by a ninth round stoppage.
That blood, just as soon as you mentioned that, it popped. That image popped in my head, because he was a bloody mess.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah, but there's that Texas connection again. Another thing I want to mention, he had tied the record that was 100 years old for consecutive first-round knockout streaks, 18 in a row. He tied with young Otto, and he had broken it, I should say, at 18. The young Otto had 16 straight fights in 1906 that ended in first-round knockout. He had it for a little bit, but then Tyrone Brunson, that household name, broke it in 2008 with 19 first-round knockouts. But I think the difference here is Valero fought some decent guys in the beginning of his career. But anyway, his last fight against Antonio DeMarco in February of 2010. But that was... after the trouble started. In 2009, like we said, he got arrested for drunk driving in Texas. Then he was supposed to fight again and was denied a visa because of the trouble. And as time went on, trouble started following him. In 2010, tell us, his wife got in trouble. She was in the hospital, and in came Valero.
Yeah, one of the things in March of 2010, there's the writings on the wall with these kind of people who serial wife beater people, and this is just it's all too predictable when you start seeing the details. But in March of 2010, his 24-year-old wife, Jennifer Carolina Vieira, was hospitalized with cracked ribs, punctured lung. He claimed she fell. So there was those kind of things. There at some point there was a restraining order issued. Eventually he got back in contact with her. They checked into the Intercontinental Hotel in Valencia, Venezuela, about a month later in April of 2010, early in the wee hours of the morning, he came down to the hotel desk, all bloody, with no shirt on, in his pajamas, and he said, I killed my wife. And they went up and found his wife, 24-year-old woman, stabbed to death. And he was arrested. He then recanted, said he did not do it, although he had just confessed to the hospital staff. They did suspect, possible suicide risk. I guess they took his shirt, they took his belt. They didn't take his sweatpants. And by the next morning, he had hanged himself in his cell. A sad end to a pretty despicable human being. One of the sad things about it is that when you watch that Antonio DeMarco fight, which is one I saved on my TiVo because I remember, it was just an amazing fight. It was incredible because of the wound that Valero suffered and how he fought the entire fight with such a hole in his forehead, basically. And I've saved it, even though, like I said, he's just not a good person. In it, there's a couple of times where Showtime cuts to his wife and kids in the crowd. And Doug Fisher noted that he never saw her smile. So you can't help but think that her whole life was with him was a bit of, torment. But that's, again, he was a hell of a fighter.
I would like to add, and Edwin Valerio's mom was really hot. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of her, but geez, she was a hottie. I'll tell you that. One thing that I do want to add, we're running out of time. You're going to give me the title bout here in a second, but he did test positive for some drug and alcohol issues after that incident at the hospital, and that was another thing that you can add to this. Not only did he have some apparent mental issues against women, but when you added that with the violent past and drugs and alcohol, I mean, I guess it's not that much of a surprise that the demise of Edwin Valero ended the way it did. But in any event, how did he fare in the game, my man?
Well, in the game, the game measures boxing and measures your fighting ability. So in the game, he did really well. I put him in against two of the top guys right now at lightweight because that's where he ended his career. I think he did fight for a little while at 130, but yeah, 130 and then 135. So I put him in against Mikey Garcia. When they fought the first time, he stops Mikey Garcia, a ninth round TKO. He had Garcia down three times, stopped him at 2 minutes and 32 seconds of the ninth. When they fight 100 times, I kind of disagree with this, but there's no way we could ever imagine it because we didn't see enough of Valero. But to me, I think Garcia is pretty polished. But Valero dominates, 60 victories, 38 defeats, 2 draws. He only scored 29 knockouts, so almost a little less than 50% of his wins are by knockout. Of the 38 wins Garcia scored, he stopped Valero 19 times. And then I put him against Jorge Linares, and the first time they fight, he stops Linares TKO in round number 8, 2 minutes, 35 seconds. He put him down, cut him, and was battering him when the referee stopped it. When they fight 100 times, he really dominates. Valero wins 93, Linares wins 4, and there's 3 draws. Valero stopped him 86 times, and all 4 of Linares' wins came by knockout.
Interesting results with Mikey Garcia. I think I'm with you. I think Mikey Garcia is the real deal, very polished fighter. But makes me wonder, and he certainly was eligible, but Edwin Valero, Hall of Famer?
I don't see him. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get on the ballot just because of his the dubiousness of him.
No, I don't think he belongs. You can't say that. I mean,
definitely not.
You can't say that. Look at how many women beaters and criminals are in the Hall of Fame as it is.
I think that's true, but I think that this is different. This is a murderer.
So is Carlos Monzon.
Yeah,
Bobby Chacon beat up his wife all the time.
Right. I mean, I think that's the difference. Is that Monzon really is the closest thing. I don't know. It's a tough one because, when you think about somebody like Mike Tyson, who was, the reason I got into the sport, yeah, he did a lot of despicable things. But because he's lived longer, we've seen, and he's gotten wise in his old age, he's taken responsibility for them. And that's one of the things in America. People talk about this with Bill O'Reilly. America's forgiving. Yeah, America is forgiving if you're penitent. If you're repentant, they'll forgive you. Mike Tyson has been. A guy like Edwin Valero never will be, because he took his own life,
Right.
which in a way that was sort of a statement saying I'm guilty.
And wasn't there a guy? Didn't I come up? I think it was Freddie Steele that turned out to be a serial killer or something. Was it?
Yeah, Freddie Steele. Yeah, I did see that article, and I do want to read more about that. I think it was heralding a book that was coming out.
Yeah, no, there's a book coming out, and Freddie Steele, he's a Hall of Famer, So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this sport is that.
No, let's face it.
It's a hurt business.
If you pay,
the idea that it attracts dangerous people and broken, battered people who do mean things shouldn't be a shock. But at the same time, it's also a sport, and you have very good-hearted people who want to compete in the highest form of competition, and that's boxing. It's one-on-one. It's all you.
I think it's simple. Edwin Valero didn't send enough money to the Brophies, so he's not getting in. And in baseball, you got a lot of guys like Ty Cobb was a racist, mean SOB, spit on people and everything else. He's in. So Alex, we got to take a break. Great job as usual. This week's blast from the past: Edwin Valero, former junior lightweight and lightweight world champion, 27 wins, all by knockout. He only fought 67 rounds, and like Alex told us, died at the young age of 28 at the hands of his sweatpants. He did it himself. But great job, Alex. And next
Death
time,
by sweatpants.
Next time. Speaking of sweatpants, next time I'm going to make sure yours are on before we switch the camera. All right. So
sounds good, Billy.
All right. So listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I got some stuff to read real quick. Maybe I won't even read. I don't know. Maybe I'll take my sweatpants off. I'll be back in 2.
Billy C will be right back. Part of the Billy C Boxing Network.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and 3-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now, because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-493-9652 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Melberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you the #1 mistakes retirees are making with their investments today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-493-9652 to have your free information kit rushed to your door. Again, that's 800-493-9652.
If you or a loved one have had hernia repair surgery with mesh reinforcement and suffered infection, chronic pain, mesh migration, mesh failure, organ damage, or needed additional surgery, call the Rely On Group right now. You may be eligible to receive a cash award and compensation for your medical expenses. Your voice deserves to be heard. Call the Rely On Group to be connected with a personal injury attorney for a free consultation. Call 800-715-4869. That's 800-715-4869.
This is important news for women using birth control medications and devices. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with a pseudotumor after using one of these birth control drugs or devices, you may be eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Contact the law firm of Davis & Crump right now if you or a loved one have used one of these birth control medications or devices and were diagnosed with a pseudotumor to see if you are eligible for a cash award and medical expenses. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Snacking has never been this exciting. At Graze.com, we combine wholesome ingredients with the flavors we all love to create over 100 exciting snacks. Like these. We'd love to send you a Graze sampler box for free. Just go to Graze.com, enter the code ENJOY36, and we'll mail your free box to your home or office. Join thousands of Grazers already in love with our exciting snacks. So come to Graze.com for your first box free.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. that's my face. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
Now back to Billy C. Interact with the show at BillyCBoxing.com.
And we're back. You're watching and listening to the Billy C. Show. Glad you could be with us. My man, Coach, just corrected me again. I just want to thank everybody that's in the chat room all the time, keeping me straight. I kept saying Freddie Steele. It's Freddie Mills. There's a book coming out. I thought it was Freddie Steele, but there's a book coming out that implicates him as a mass murderer, a serial killer. So keep your eyes for that. I talked about it on a show a few months back. But anyway, a couple of quick emails. This first one's from Jesse. He says, hey, Billy, I was wondering where the money's coming from the WBSS, World Boxing Super Series. I believe the winner gets $30 million. Where's that money coming from? Is it $30 million? Was that much? I thought that was a total. Sponsors, my man. Sponsors. Don't think somebody's just writing a check. The sponsors are getting that, TV deals, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the money comes from. Ticket sales, it's all in a pool, whatever. He says, how much do you expect Wilder to make to fight Anthony Joshua in England versus if they fought in the U.S.? Listen, Anthony Joshua is going to make good money if he fights. Wilder and Anthony Joshua will both make some good money regardless of where the fight is. I personally think that Deontay Wilder would be much better off fighting in England. They draw 90,000 people for that fight. They can up the ticket prices. He'll still get a piece of the pay-per-view. The bottom line is I think that Deontay Wilder should be able to make $10 million to fight Anthony Joshua. I would think that they can't expect more than that. He says supposedly the HBO tripleheader in with Lubin, Lara, and Hurd card peaked at 685,000. Is that good? Yeah, that's good. If that's true, that's good. He says, can you do a blast from the past with Diego Corrales? I will put it on the list, Jesse. Thank you very much for the email. One more email. This one is from my man Joel. Joel says, hey, Billy C., here's an article for you to read. And he sent me an article about a guy who basically, I'll read the rest of the email and it will tell you. He saw an article. He says, I saw an article about a Filipino fighter who died after a sparring session this past Sunday. He allegedly submitted a false CAT scan result, and he couldn't afford the actual test. My question is, isn't the promoter of the card responsible for paying for a fighter's CAT scan? I'm not sure how everything works with the medicals and who's responsibility is that? Maybe you can clear this up for me. He says, with so much focus on CAT scan development in retired football players, CT retired football players, do you ever think boxing will become a sport in the future where there's a big drop in the number of athletes participating because of concern over the same issue that the football players have? I love watching football and boxing as well as MMA, but it's always in the back of my mind how much damage these athletes are taking, and I want them to live a full, healthy life after retiring. What's your thoughts? First and foremost, the responsibility of a CAT scan, depending upon the commission. For example, the state of New York and the state of New Jersey, I know for sure, pay the bill. They foot the bill for that. But most cases, it's the responsibility of whoever. If the state requires it, they want you to submit a CAT scan. How a fake one could have been submitted is pretty tough. And the truth of the matter is how stupid was the commission. I mean, first of all, because of the medical laws, you can't just, have one in your back pocket. Oh, here's my CAT scan. It has to be submitted. You have to have permission. So how that got through all of those, loopholes, I don't know. But that's a very sad situation. As far as CTE development in football players and boxing, listen, the risks are there with all kinds of contact sports. And, the athletes need to be made aware of it prior to it and fully understand, and then it's their decision. As far as football versus boxing, I've talked about the results. Football is a sport where you're actually launching yourself, and the possibility of getting those injuries are greater than in boxing, because in boxing, if you're taught correctly, you're trying to avoid the punches. So you're not getting that brain. The statistics for brain injuries, football versus boxing. Now, keep in mind, there's way more people that play football. At the NFL level, 20% have suffered some type of a head injury in professional football. And in boxing, the percentage is around 2%, less than 2. It's 1.6 something, based on a study in the New York Times a couple of years ago. But anyway, thanks for the emails. We have our trivia question. Listen, I'm going to give you a big-time hint. Which boxer was a long-time sparring partner for one heavyweight champ, knocked him down in sparring, and then had a victory over another one-time heavyweight champ? I gave you a bunch of hints yesterday and the day before, but I'm going to tell you the longtime sparring partner this guy was for the heavyweight. I'm not going to tell you who he was, obviously, and I'm not going to tell you the other guy's name, but he was a longtime sparring partner for Rocky Marciano. He knocked Rocky Marciano down in sparring. Who was the other guy? Well, you don't have to know who he was, but the other one-time guy was a champion. If you know this guy's name and you're the first one to email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com, you're going to win a copy of the Title Bout Championship computer game, the same Title Bout Championship computer game that Alex does the comparisons to. So good luck to that. Today, on this day in boxing history, October 25th, in 1968, Freddie Little knocks out Sandro Magazzati in the 9th round to win the world junior middleweight title. Took place in Rome. On this day in 1960, Alphonse Salami wins a 15-round decision over Fetty Gilroy to win the vacant European world bantamweight title in London. On this day in 1990, Ricardo Lopez knocks out Hideki Oshahi in the 5th round to win the WBC strawweight title in Tokyo. On this day in 1980, Mike Weaver knocks out Jerry Coetzee in the 13th round to retain his WBA world heavyweight title in South Africa. On this day in 1986, Mike McCallum knocks out Saeed Sayoua in the 9th round to retain his world junior middleweight title, took place in France. And on this day in 1990, Evander Holyfield knocks out Buster Douglas in the 3rd round to win the world heavyweight title, and that took place in Las Vegas. Hey, man, that concludes our show for today, but make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, ciao, baby.